we feel bad about that. We think like, yeah, I guess my family is great. Yeah, I like my family, I guess, but I really love my sport, but I feel bad because I love my sport more than my family. We may even be afraid of admitting that to ourselves because we think it's going to say something terrible about us. All it says about you is that you're human and that you have competing interests. Everybody does. The clubs that they join, everything around their life is gathered around school, and it's also and it's kind of geared toward maybe going to college. Maybe that's geared towards some kind of a future that they think that they're aiming at. But the point is that we have it pretty well up here actually. When a person is drunk, it consumes your mind, it clouds your thoughts, and if a person, especially if a person is an alcoholic, you pursue it. And typically, I mean, what's the stereotype? Why do people get drunk and high as a stereotype? Yeah.
I mean, some people do it to forget a lot of things that are going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, what would be something in their life that they might be trying to drink or to forget about?
Abusive parents.
Abusive parents, shit. Okay. The abusive parents. Before I even finish the sentence.
Problems at work.
What's that? Problems at work. Yeah. God, anybody know who Ed Calderon is? You ever heard the name before? He's a fascinating guy. You can look him up. He's a former, was it state police down in Mexico, and he was one of the officers who was investigating and fighting against cartels. And he does a lot of interviews now, and he describes that. I think he was an officer down there for 12 years or something like that. And he tells some fascinating stories. He's a really interesting guy because he's not like braggy. He's not very loud and boisterous. I believe he grew up in TJ, if I'm not mistaken, and his stories are just very, very articulate, very just kind of calm as he tells these things, and he'll tell you just some of the really horrendous things that he came across. He talks about how their hiring process, how they got picked up, and he says on his first day on the job, the commander says, "Come on, let's go," and he thinks he's going on a raid, so he gears up. He thinks they're gonna go kick down some doors or something, and the guy's like, "What are you doing, man? Just come on, grab a pair of bolt cutters," and so he's like, "Oh, okay." So he takes off his armor, grabs some bolt cutters, and his first job on his first day on the job was they had to go cut some bodies off of a bridge for some people who had been hanged up there, and they were had the messages scrawled on them. And if you follow that stuff, you know what I'm talking about. So they had to cut these guys down. That was his job on their first day. Was to cut these guys down. And so I was listening to an interview with him recently. And he's been doing these for years, and it's interesting because almost every interview he does, he brings up some new stuff or some little details about things. And the interviewer asked him, "So how did you deal with that? What was your first day?" So he said, "On my way home, I stopped at a store at an Oxxo, and I got a 6-pack, and he says that was the beginning of my medication process." And he talks about how he became an alcoholic as a way of dealing with all of the things that he would deal with, that he would see at work. And he was explaining that gradually it got worse because after a while you can't hide that kind of thing. And then he'd mention it to some of the other people he worked with, and they'd be like, "Oh, you too? Oh, you too?" And then he goes from drinking by himself after work every day to drinking with the other officers when they got off work. So they would essentially have this process of wake up, go to work, get wasted, go to sleep, wake up with a hangover, and then continue the process. And he said he continued this process for a decade. Cost him a marriage, cost him some family, cost him a lot of stuff. And he was doing it specifically for that idea of trying to get away from what it was that was at work. And it's interesting because because as he explained it, he was also kind of drunk with the work, because that was his entire life as I just described it. Wake up, go to work, come home, get wasted, wake up, go to work. And that was a process for a decade, he said. Constantly, over and over and over again, because he was the job. He didn't take vacations. He didn't go and spend time with family, really. Everything about him was about this job. And that's an important thing to understand. Was he good at the job? By every indication I've been able to see, it seems so. It seems like everything he talks about seems to be in line. So I was fascinated by this stuff. So I looked up as best as I possibly could just to see if the person was legit. And it seemed like he was good at it. And so that should tell you something. Can you be good at work and be good at family? To a degree. But eventually you're going to have to pick one or the other that's going to be more important than you, to you. Because you cannot be the top in your field and also have, the perfect family life. You cannot do that. How much time do you have to spend, as we're saying here, if you're going to be drunk with family and activities and bonding and bringing those relationships together, how much time does that take? And every minute that you spend with your family, you're not spending on your work. Every minute that you're spending, if you have a job right now and you play a sport, every minute that you're spending at work, you're not spending on you're not investing in your sport. And you can think of it that way with your time. Some of your time is spent, like your money. Some of your money is spent, and some of your time and your money is invested. Investment, of course, is when you put it into something and you hope to get something out of it. Versus if you spend it, it's just gone. You buy a candy bar, you eat it, the money's gone. You take that same $1.25, whatever, and you put it aside and then you invest it. Hopefully, a year from now, that $1.25 is going to be $1.40. Hopefully, a year from now, that $1.40 is going to be $1.80. And so on. There's a difference between investing your money and spending your money. And your time works the same way. You can invest your time or you can spend your time. Some of your time, you spend it and it's just gone. Other stuff, you can get something out of it. You put time into a sport, you get better at your sport. And what can your sport give you? Some of the same things that being drunk with it can give you: confidence and happiness. How much alcohol do you have to drink before you're really confident and really happy? Lots. How much time do you have to invest in your sport before you're really confident and really happy? Lots. I wonder if any of you are like this. Like, you play a sport and maybe you're very good at it and you keep getting better and better at it and you win things. But the one thing that always bothers you is that one time that you lost a while ago, years ago. I was saying I teach jiu-jitsu, and a couple nights ago I was training with one of the black belts. He was a black belt when I first started, and the other night I beat him, and I beat him with a thing. It's called a triangle choke. Long story. And this is the guy. This guy's tough, man. He's really, really tough. And the guy's been out for like the past 9 months or so, kind of in and out. He's had some health problems. That doesn't matter. I don't care. Still beat him. And the thing I beat him with, I remember I caught it, and he just says, "Wow, that was really, really tight." And I enjoyed it for about 2 seconds or so, because I beat him with a technique that the last time I got beaten by a non-black belt was 3.5 years ago with that exact same technique. And that's where my mind went immediately. Yeah, whatever, Scout. Remember you got beaten 3.5 years ago by somebody with that same technique? My mind immediately goes to the thing that I was unsuccessful at. And so I immediately shook hands and said, got to get back to training. Why? To make sure that doesn't happen again. I don't know how many of you are like that. Yeah, wins are great. You can win medals, you can win belts, but you remember that one time that you lost, that one time. And if that's the case, maybe there's something to be said for it being an obsession versus an activity or a recreation. But if you're like that, man, you're going to get good at it. You may even get great at it. But you have to recognize that you're going to have to sacrifice other things. If you're getting drunk with something, it consumes your mind, it clouds your thoughts. You've only got so much bandwidth in your mind. You can only put so much time into any one thing. You've only got 24 hours in the day. You have to put some of that into sleep, and then some of that into eating maybe. Now the question is, where do you invest or spend the rest of that time? Every minute that you're in class right now, you're not doing something else. Some of you, it irritates you because you're thinking, wow, my mind could be doing something else. And I mean like a real thing, not like a whatever, something else, but like, shit, I wish I was taking batting practice. I wish I was out running. I wish I was dancing. I wish I was writing. I wish I was programming. I wish I was something. Not just, I wish I wasn't here, but instead I wish there's something specific I wish I was doing instead, because your mind is just constantly there. If anybody in here is a musician, you're one of those. Right now there's something going on in your head, a song or something that you wish you could lay down, because you just wish you had the time, and you're probably always thinking to yourself, I never have enough time to do those things. And you're right, by the way. You're probably more right than you realize, because if you want to get great at that, you're going to have to sacrifice those things. Want to be great at a sport? You're going to have to sacrifice family. But I love my family. Cool. Question is, what do you love more? Sport or the family? Can I do both? Yeah, 50-50, sure. And if you give 50% effort, what kind of results are you going to get? 50% results. If you're incredibly talented, your 50% effort might put you 75% up. But man, imagine somebody else who's incredibly talented and they put the time into it and they have the work ethic. Those are the people who are just unstoppable, man. And sometimes that's what you have to be to compete with them, of course. We sell this lie to people like, you can have it all. You can't have it all. You can't. And intuitively, you probably realize this. You might reject it a little bit because you might think, but I really want to. Yeah. Like I mentioned last period, I wonder how many of you in here want to be Elon Musk. You think, wow, I want to have all these companies, and I want to, you want his life? Yeah, it'd be great to have all that fame and power and money. Do you want his families also? I say that plurally, by the way, families. This guy's got like what, 7, 8 children? Four different baby mamas. Guy can't keep a relationship going for more than a few months at a time or a couple of years at a time. Guy has to go from relationship to relationship to relationship because he can't build anything on that personal level because he has built SpaceX, because he has built Tesla. You can't build those things and be close with your family. You can present it, you can take the pictures, you can be around on holidays, half of the day on a holiday and give out really cool gifts, but you can't be there for your baby's first steps, you can't be there for their first words, you can't be there for their first recitals and all of that. The question just becomes, not that there's nothing to do in life, the question is there's so much to do in life. And the thing that fills you with happiness, the thing that fills you with confidence, and sometimes we feel bad about that. We think like, yeah, I guess my family is great. Yeah, I like my family, I guess, but I really love my sport, but I feel bad because I love my sport more than my family. We may even be afraid of admitting that to ourselves because we think it's going to say something terrible about us. All it says about you is that you're human and that you have competing interests. Everybody does. I'll even leave it up to you, and even in terms of those relationships, can you love more than one person at a time? I'll leave that to you to figure out for yourself. Some people say you can't love more than one person. I don't know, can't you? I don't know, you love one person, why can't you love more? And can't you have those kinds of divisions? Does it have to be a matter of like, my friends over my girlfriend or my family over my boyfriend? Eventually it's going to have to be. If those things come into conflict, the question is, what do you put the priority into? Which of these things makes you drunk? Which of these things makes you feel happy and confident? And hopefully it's something that's also good. Hopefully it's also something that's good. Because you have to be careful about pursuing things just because they make you happy. I imagine slaughtering 30 to 50 million people made Joseph Stalin happy. But we probably wouldn't want to say to him, as long as it made you happy, pursue your joy. Nah, some joys aren't better than others to pursue. So hopefully you find a good one. And you get drunk with that and do it a lot. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Happy Thursday-ish? Not too bad, man.